Which one do you want me to look at? Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in. I'm Laura Loomer, I'm an investigative journalist, and with me here today is another investigative journalist, Jason Goodman. We are live streaming an interview here on the ground in Las Vegas with two eyewitnesses who were at the Route 91 concert during the Las Vegas shooting. And they saw everything that took place, they heard the gunfire, and they ran for their lives. And they're here with me today to tell their story. Because, you know, we've been receiving this narrative from law enforcement and the media that there was only one shooter and that, you know, they're sure that there weren't multiple shooters. But witnesses on the ground have been contacting me since I've been in Las Vegas with, you know, video evidence that suggests multiple shooters with their own testimony. And I wanted to interview Stephanie and Anthony here today because they want to tell their story, and they don't feel like the mainstream media is listening to them. So, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
So, tell me, and just tell the viewers watching, what happened the night? Take us step by step. What happened when you were at this concert, Route 91?
Okay. Well, I'll start from where I remember when the shots started. Everything started from me when I heard one single loud bang right behind me, and I was in the VIP suites, so was Anthony. Okay. And this is a single loud, huge bang right behind me, and I turn around and look, and I see that someone has fallen, and the group of people that were with this person is helping her up or trying to figure out what's going on, and I'm observing this as well, you know, and then maybe 40 seconds later, some shooting goes off on the crowd, and that's when it was like automatic gunfire, completely different from the first one.
It was a single shot. It was not automatic gunfire.
Single shot, which initially I thought like either it's a large firecracker that someone's doing some sort of prank, or this lady was drunk and dropped a glass, something. But I was trying to look because obviously that it scared me. It was an extremely loud bang.
And you were there as well. Did you hear the same bang?
No.
You didn't hear it, but
No, her side of the story, it's interesting. All the videos that I've watched, you can see what she's talking about, but my back was towards the area that she was facing, so I didn't see the same thing.
Which I think clearly from the video I shared with you, you can tell though that some people obviously had drinks, some people they didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, and of course, people are at a concert and they don't know, like a lot of people are intoxicated, and that's the perfect place to attack someone because people are not sober, right? And
another
so they're
thing,
disoriented.
Yeah, exactly. And I honestly thought it was firecrackers or something, but it was extremely loud. And for me, when everything started clicking is when the shooting in the crowd happened. And that maybe was like 40 seconds later, between 20 and 40 seconds later. And that's when I took off running. From the video I showed you, though, obviously half of my friends didn't even notice, and most people were confused. It sounded like firecrackers until people started screaming and running.
And we have that whole video. You know, one of Stephanie's friends who was at the concert filmed it. For now, you know, she wants to remain anonymous, and if she wants to be identified later, we'll identify her. But in the video, you can clearly see before Jason Aldean was even singing the last song, you know, which is when initial reports or the law enforcement account of the shooting says it began. They're saying that during the last song in which Jason Aldean took the stage, that's when the shooting rang out. But you can see people turning around and leaning over to help a woman who was shot. And people are starting to panic, and then after that you hear a couple more single shots that are very loud. And if you look at the video, you can kind of see flashes coming from the Delano. Not the Mandalay, but the Delano, which is next door. And then, like Stephanie said, about 20 to 45 seconds before Jason Aldean began singing the last song, people panic and start running towards the end. People start running out even before the first shots of automatic fire rang out. So they were aware that there was either a shooter inside or another shooter from another angle, or just what clearly sounds and is obviously another weapon, a different weapon. It's not automatic.
They sounded completely different.
It's completely different. So it's either a shooter, the single shooter, Stephen Paddock, using, you know, different weapons, right? Non-automatic and automatic, or multiple shooters, which is, you know, a narrative that law enforcement and the mainstream media is not. What happened after that when you saw the woman fall?
Well, so I saw her fall, and I mean, obviously I didn't know what happened with that. I didn't even remember this until I could finally start talking about, like, I told my family the same story, I told Fox 5 the same story. But anyway, I took off running once I saw the open fire on the crowd, and it started making sense, and people were running and screaming. I took off. I lost all of my friends.
So Fox 5 in Las Vegas, when did they interview you about this?
They interviewed me the night of
the shooting.
I was trying to get my car from the garage, and they were on one of the back streets where I would try to go get my car.
Right.
And I ended up talking to them because I was still like shaking and upset. But
did you show them the videos, or did they
yeah,
see these videos?
I showed
and what
them
did
the
they say?
Thought it was really interesting. I mean, at the time, they asked me if I thought that it sounded like multiple shooters, and I said yes, it did sound like multiple shooters. So they posted my interview, and
They posted it.
yeah, and posted the video, but I don't think it got the attention that it should have.
So since then, they haven't called you in for another interview?
No. No.
Right. Well, I mean, unfortunately, and just from my own experience here on the ground as well, that seems to be the case. I mean, I'm an independent investigative journalist, and even attending these press conferences, it seems like a lot of the local media and mainstream media, they're not really asking these questions that are kind of, you know, counter to the official narrative of, you know, what these FBI agents or even Joseph Lombardo or what the mainstream media is pushing, right? And a lot of people, it's not just Stephanie and Anthony who believe there are multiple shooters. There's a lot of people I've met with here on the ground in Las Vegas, many of whom are actually just scared. They're too scared to really go public with their stories, and they believe that there were multiple shooters. I mean, there were people at other hotels who reported hearing gunfire inside other hotels, and you know, we're what, 11 or 12 days out since the shooting attack happened, and not only is there no motive that's been discovered, but the timeline and the narrative just seems to constantly be changing. They can't even really get one single story down. So how, if they're not even sure about the narrative, can they be sure that there weren't multiple shooters or somebody in the ground? I mean, you said that when you started running, you felt like the gunfire kept getting closer. You were running further away from the Mandalay. Tell people about that.
Yeah, so when I ran out from the VIP suites because that's where me and all my friends were, but I ran out and hid behind one of the trailers that are the VIP suites.
In the opposite direction of the Mandalay.
Yeah, and I had to jump over 2 different fences that are extremely high. Scratched myself from that, but I jumped over 2 different fences. I ended up jumping in some random guy's car who bust through another gate that I think ended up leading to the airport hangar.
Okay.
I ended up on an airport tarmac, if that's what you call it.
Right.
And we broke into the hangar. But the whole time I was running, people are still screaming, running, and it's as if someone's chasing you. I don't understand why people will keep running, and why would I keep running if the shots are still getting louder? It sounded like someone was chasing us, someone was on the ground. That's what doesn't make sense to me, and why I'm searching for answers is because I wouldn't keep running if I didn't think there was a threat coming. So it's upsetting that I'm not getting the answers I want, and the bullets sounded louder, and I have multiple friends that attest to that they felt like they were being chased.
Yeah, and there, you know, for those of you who are watching, there are multiple people, friends of Stephanie and Anthony, who, you know, wanted to tell their story, but like I said, a lot of people are really nervous because, you know, people, they're not really being nice. The media and law enforcement, they're not really being respectful to witnesses who are claiming that they heard gunshots closer to them or that they saw shooters on the ground. There are people who have reported seeing shooters in the ground, seeing shooters in the parking lot of the concert and near the airport, right? And they're kind of being dismissed as if they're conspiracy theorists or crazy in some sense. And like I said before, law enforcement and the media can't even get a story straight as to what really happened this night. They don't even know, you know, what, it seems like they can't even really piece together yet what the official timeline or narrative was. So again, if you can't get an official narrative or timeline down, how can you be so sure without even knowing the motive that there weren't multiple shooters? Mm-hmm. So I just think it's really important for people to, you know, listen to Stephanie and Anthony, and, you know, if their friends want to go public with this as well, I'd be more than happy to speak with them also. But it's really important for people to listen to these witnesses because they were there, right? A lot of these law enforcement agents and FBI agents who are giving the information to the public, they weren't there. They didn't experience this. They didn't run for their lives. They didn't watch people bleed out to death. They didn't watch people get shot in the head behind them. They didn't, they didn't get trampled over while running for their lives. So, these are the individuals who people should really be listening to. And, it's very questionable, right? The timeline and the facts that are being presented to us, there's been a lot of inconsistencies and discrepancies and things that, law enforcement have been caught in, and the media, and a lot of people have used the word cover up, right? Because it just seems like as if there's some type of angle or information that isn't fully being released to the public. So until the facts come out and until people can agree on it and, the evidence is really provided, I think that people should really be listening to witnesses more.
I think it's very important. Yeah, like you said, I could be dead right now, and that, like, honestly breaks my heart. I have a family I care about, and
how does it make you feel? I mean, I know before the interview began, you were telling me that you feel like the media in Las Vegas and the media, like the reporter that you spoke with, and just individuals here, they're not listening. Like, they're not telling your story.
I'm just unsatisfied, with the news that has been reported. I've obviously been watching everything and trying to research myself, but it just doesn't make sense. How are you going to not talk to the people that were there and just change the subject to finding a motive?
Right.
I don't. That's
as
not.
Someone
That's
who was
not
there,
enough
who
for me.
witnessed it, who saw someone on the ground. You said you turned around and you saw someone who was shot. Someone who watched people run for their lives. I don't know if you actually saw dead bodies or not. But
I saw people running that were shot. I had blood on the back of my shirt. It wasn't my blood. It was someone else's. But it just, you can't dismiss the fact that I heard one loud shot, and I saw that it was correlated right behind me with the women that got shot.
You can clearly see in the video that we'll post the full version later as well. You can clearly see that the first shot, and there were a couple that rang out after that, that was at least 20 to 45 seconds before the automatic fire rang out, and people are kind of looking like, did I just hear a gun go off? And then some people, put it together and they started running before, the massacre really began. So the angles are also very suspicious as well, because if you look at the angle of the 30-second window onto the stadium where the shooting took place, it doesn't really make sense as to how a woman would have been able to be shot in the back from the other side. I know we were discussing that. There would almost have to be another shooter in there in order for that to happen, because angle just doesn't add up.
The reports are saying a lot of people were shot in the middle of the crowd or in the front, right by the stage. That angle doesn't make sense to me at all, because the 32nd floor window wouldn't even hit those people right in front of the stage. The lady behind me, I'm not sure if a sniper, I have no idea. I just know it sounds like two different guns. I know that the sounds were different. Why would anybody switch their guns like that and try to scare off a bunch? If you're going hunting, you're not going to shoot off a single shot and scare your prey.
Yeah, if you're trying to kill thousands of people, which this guy was obviously going for, maximum kills. Yeah. Why would you use a non-automatic weapon and then switch to an automatic weapon? It just doesn't, unless you're trying to confuse people or disorient them. But even then, if I was going to kill people and I wanted to really scare people and, misdirect people, I would use probably the automatic weapon so people, were confused, pause, and then go onward. It just doesn't make sense as to why there was such a long pause and then clearly different weapons.
Yeah, well, that clearly is what happened. People were confused. So many people thought it was fireworks. So many people were drunk, didn't even notice. Right. That's obviously why you see videos of guys flipping off whatever and chugging a beer. People didn't. There was so much confusion. It just.
Yeah.
I don't know. The fact that I'm not the only one that thinks that they're being chased, and I listened to my friend's story after I met up with them. Again, I lost all of them afterwards, and I met up with them 2 days later and heard their stories, and they said the exact same thing, and they weren't with me.
So what about you? Did you also get the feeling that as you were running further away from the Mandalay that the shots were getting closer?
It was interesting, because when we split up and we both were heading, she went off on her own, but I was able to stay with one of our mutual girlfriends. And when we were on our way exiting and going over those two fences, we headed towards the airport also. And after we had hopped the first wall that we hit, at one point, one of my girlfriends looked at me and she goes, "Does it sound like it's getting closer?" And I said, "Yeah." And at that point, I grabbed her hand and we started praying in this bush that we were hiding in.
At the airport.
We weren't at the airport yet, because as we were running, we were hiding in landscape, because you could only go 5 or 10 yards and then you had to take
Yeah,
cover.
that you kept like, I switched where I hid like 5 times.
Yeah,
because who does that unless you feel like you're about to fucking die, like someone's coming towards you?
We went through a lot, but it's interesting because I've talked to everyone that was in our group.
How many people?
There was about 8 of us at that time, and I've also talked to other friends of mine that were there that I didn't know was there until recently, and everyone that was on the ground that I've spoken to, we all know what we heard, and there's a difference between an echo and different firepower, and there was definitely more than one weapon being used. I don't know if there were multiple shooters. I definitely know that the angles and everything that you guys are talking about
the first
makes
shot that
total
we hear,
sense.
which was like 45 seconds before, the automatic. It's clearly not automatic fire. I mean, that was not an automatic weapon. You can hear it. It's a single shot.
I've read some reports. People were saying, "Oh, firecrackers." Maybe they were doing that, and that was part of the confusion. But I know that I saw a woman fall with the correlation of that first shot. So I don't know.
You felt the energy shift. One of the reporters that I spoke to, that's how I expressed it. I described it as like teaser shots, because I felt the energy change, and I kind of looked at my friends like, is that what I thought it was?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, almost as if someone was trying to like get people ready or really confuse people,
Yeah.
and then prepare them or just kind of get people running around. Because if you freak people out and people are running, you're gonna, create a dangerous situation, because it's like a stampede situation, and that's how some people died. Actually, some people, they didn't die because of gun being shot. They died because they were trampled.
Oh, absolutely.
I saw some reports. And if you have 30,000 people or so in a stadium or in a closed area,
It's full chaos. Yeah, it was full chaos.
Especially if you make people think that shots are coming from different directions.
Yeah.
I mean,
And they can't figure out whether or not there are.
that also would correlate with a bunch of
shooters.
people telling me, and close friends telling me, that there was shootings up and down the strip. It would make sense as well. You're confusing the whole strip, which would make the police have a delayed response. They're responding to so many different calls, and a lot doesn't make sense. But I don't know. I know what I heard, so that's why it's important for me to share the video that my friend, provided me, that I'm clearly, like, I told my story before I even had this video, and I said I saw a woman shot before, and there were single shots. And then 2 days later, I got this video, and I'm like, holy like, I started crying, because I was like, it shows me looking back at where I thought someone got shot. Like, that's enough proof for me. Like, why would I lie about something like that?
Yeah, I mean, you're obviously very emotional about this too, because, I mean, I wasn't there, but I can only imagine how it must feel for people to kind of insinuate that you're crazy or that you're not telling the truth, especially reporters. When you were there, you saw more than anything what happened. And, just for people like law enforcement and, authority figures, for them to be the leading voice on this investigation and like try and convince the world of what happened, it must be really upsetting, especially when it's totally, in opposition to what you actually witnessed.
Yeah.
Why don't I run that video so everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll play the video now.
So I've played it a bit already, but I wanna go over it in slow motion, because I see the part where Stephanie told us, she sees the person being shot. Up here on the balcony, we can see people crouching down rather, to attend to a woman. There's 1, 2, like 3 people crouching, and right here is Stephanie looking right at there as those guys crouch down to where the woman was just shot.
You can see multiple people looking too. Like, even if you pan over, I have friends that were on the next suite over too that also saw, and they were looking as well. So like, I know everybody pretty much in that video except the people behind me.
Right. You can see everybody getting down where that woman was.
Yeah, and this has got to be obviously a huge crime scene, and the sheriff keeps expressing it as an ongoing investigation, and the whole like conspiracy question mark. I'm not trying to get into any of that. It's just the fact that what we went through, it's important that everything comes out, you know, and if
Right.
they find new information that's expressed,
Right.
and not trying to stand behind what they gave in the beginning, and then let's say being discredited for, oh, you guys didn't get it right the first time. Well, naturally the public is going to look for answers right away, and the media is going to search for
Right.
answers. But
And also-
as you dig
yeah.
in, you're going to find more information, and I feel
Exactly.
like that is a better way of expressing it than the whole conspiracy question mark, because you're already discrediting yourself when you express it like that. You know,
Right.
it just sounds like
But that's also, I mean, the sheriff also has some responsibility for that as well, because he's saying, like, even during the press conference this week, he came out and said, oh, this isn't a conspiracy. Like, just because, you know, people are questioning authority and questioning the evidence, which has obviously been misrepresented to the public, I mean, that's a fact. That's not a conspiracy. It is a fact that they provided the public with the wrong information. They told us for over a week and a half that the shooter checked in on the 28th, and he actually checked in on the 25th, right? They have been providing everybody with misinformation.
What-
So you can't accuse people of, you know, being conspiratorial. You cannot call it a conspiracy.
I wouldn't even call it a
No,
conspiracy.
exactly. And so, you know, for
It's-
them to be using such polarizing language as well, and to refer to it as a conspiracy when they're not even getting the facts or the situation correct themselves, I don't think that it is wrong for people to, you know, be questioning whether or not, you know, or the direction of this investigation, because it's rather reckless and kind of dangerous in in my opinion, for them to say, oh, there's only one shooter when people clearly saw.
Well, that's why
heard.
I'm a little offended,
Yeah.
because
Right.
you're taking away from the people that had to run for their lives, and you're taking away from the people that did unfortunately lose their lives. You immediately say that there's one shooter when other people know that doesn't make sense
Well,
to a lot of people, and it
yeah.
doesn't make sense to me.
And it's also very dangerous too, because if there are multiple shooters and, you know, armed domestic or international terrorists on the loose here in Las Vegas, the public needs to know. And I don't know if they know this information or they don't, or if they're withholding it, or, you know, people are just, you know, not wanting to inform the public, but that's a public safety concern. And if there are multiple shooters, like, people need to know that there are armed and dangerous individuals out there, right? And
Yeah.
so that's why I don't understand why, and a lot of people in this country and around the world don't understand how they can fully and confidently say there was only one shooter when they don't even have a motive. They haven't even figured out why this happened, or
I would be completely satisfied with one shooter if they just show me the footage of him bringing all those guns up to his room and
Right.
doing everything by
they're not
himself, but
showing
I haven't seen anything, and I'm not trying to go against the police or anything. I think that some of them, most of them did a great job, like they responded, and
right.
I get it, and I get that you don't want to scare the public as well. And the sheriff has even said, everything I've done is to calm the public. Everything I've said is to calm the public. I get it, but I'm not calm. Like, I'm upset.
Well, if he's also saying that, like, obviously you're going to say that there's only one shooter to calm the public as opposed to two, because people are not going to be calm if they don't know who this other shooter or other shooters are. So,
Yeah.
so like, I am opposed to that. Well, I think that, you know, people want to feel calm and they want to feel secure. It's not always a good idea to just, you know, give people what they want and try and make the public feel calm and secure, because if that's not reality, then you shouldn't be misinforming people, which is what they've been doing. I mean, regardless of whether they want to be defensive over that or claim that, you know, it never happened, the facts are out, and, you know, it's clear cut they misinformed the public and provided false information. I mean, that's a fact.
You know, there's a point I want to raise for you guys, because as I was hearing Anthony speak, he talked about conspiracies that don't want to be conspiratorial. You know, in 1963, the CIA made an effort of making the term conspiracy theory into a pejorative term. They tried to weaponize it. Anyone who went against the official story of the JFK assassination was called a conspiracy theorist. And so now, anything about any story that doesn't conform to the mainstream, whether it's 9/11, whether it's this, whatever it is, you're dubbed a conspiracy theorist. Now, even if there is only one shooter, if the police are knowingly, or if the FBI is forcing the police to cover up information, then they themselves are part of a conspiracy. So it's important to separate the pejorative thinking of someone who's got some kind of wacky idea that's not supported by fact, versus the idea that there actually might be a conspiracy to hide the truth that the cops might not be able to control. Could be the FBI, could be the CIA, could be foreign powers, we don't know.
I agree, and I'm yeah, that's why I said that there's some people making me feel like I'm crazy. I'm not crazy. I'm a normal person. I have a family here, nieces, nephews, a little brother. I'm smart. Like I do well for myself. I'm not crazy. I
Yeah, I
never
don't
would
think
have
you're
thought.
crazy.
I was celebrating my birthday that day as well. My birthday was the day before, and I was there because I got invited for my birthday. I got a wristband for a birthday present. Like I didn't
And
expect this
it's
to
not
happen.
fair. It's not right that members of the media here in Las Vegas are, making you feel like you're crazy or making you feel like your story is not credible or valid.
Maybe
or
it's
that,
not the media. It's just
or,
almost
or that people in
they're
general, regardless, the media, law enforcement. It's not. No one should have to feel that way. Victims, which everyone in that audience was a victim. Like everyone could have died. Everyone was treated as if they were cattle or some type of animal, just in hunting season. So it's not okay for people to make people feel the way that they're making you feel right now. And that's why I urge independent journalists and people in the media to keep investigating this. Like, regardless of whether Sheriff Lombardo wants to say this isn't a conspiracy and we're confident in our narrative. Okay, great. They can be confident in a lot of things, but they said that also a week and a half ago, and it turns out they were wrong. So, don't always be. Like I said, I'm not anti-police, right? But you do and you should question authority. You shouldn't just believe something just because somebody with a badge or a gun says it's true. And there's a lot of independent investigative journalists on the ground here in Las Vegas who have revealed a lot of these, problems and inconsistencies with the official FBI LVMPD narrative. And so I urge a lot of people to continue investigating this because they haven't even given an explanation. Footage hasn't been released. We don't know why Stephen Paddock or whoever, was responsible for this, whether it be one shooter or multiple shooters, why they did this, right? Where's the footage? How did they get the guns inside? There's so many unanswered questions, and, we owe it to the people of Las Vegas. We owe it to the victims, the people who lost their lives, the people who are in the hospital recovering right now, whose lives are forever changed, to find these answers and really tell the full story. People deserve their stories, to be told and listened to by the public. And, it's just a shame that people feel like they're being silenced just because it doesn't go along with what, Sheriff Lombardo and Aaron Roos want you to believe.
Yeah, either silenced or let's let Las Vegas heal and move on. I'm like, I'm sorry, my healing is getting answers, and that's what I want. I don't.
Right. And there's an element, people have to ask themselves too, like, why is it that there's been, a lot of silence and kind of complicity associated with the reporting of this massacre? Well, you look at the LVMPD, you look at the casinos, you look at the media. The media is largely funded and supported here in Las Vegas by advertisements from the casino, right? And it's kind of this trinity that works together, and there's no denying the fact that the casinos it supports the economy here in Las Vegas. And so a lot of people, they're not going to be willing to negatively report on the casinos or, do things that are going to potentially have a negative impact on the casino and nightlife here in Vegas, right? Because if you do tell people the reality, and, sometimes the truth is ugly, but you just have to admit it and accept it, right? Life isn't pretty, right? Sometimes life is great, but sometimes it's really ugly, and you just have to accept the truth. Like, would you rather live in a world where everything is just some fantasy and you never know when someone's going to attack you or hurt you because people are constantly telling you that everything's okay and fine? Or would you rather be aware of your, surroundings and your situation and know that there are threats out there, but at least you were warned beforehand, right? At least you were warned prior to going into a stadium that you could be the victim of an attack, not told that there weren't any, threats looming over Las Vegas.
Right.
So there's an issue of that, and we need to have a discussion, as a nation and kind of as a society, as to whether it's appropriate for the media and law enforcement to, present these kind of false narratives and false ideas of, calmness and security, when clearly, the world is not a safe place at the moment. The country is not a safe place at the moment.
I think that's what they would want, though. They want people that are scared, and that's why I would assume they don't want people to talk. They're trying to scare them as well. But you're right. I think it's important to know that there's always a threat. Las Vegas was one of the places that was targeted by ISIS, you know.
Right. And ISIS claimed responsibility, but the FBI was, very quick to say that this wasn't an attack of ISIS. But ISIS featured Las Vegas in one of their propaganda videos less than a year ago. I mean, the Las Vegas media even, very, quietly and kind of casually reported on the fact that Vegas was mentioned in an ISIS propaganda video. And then the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI prepared a manual in which they said that Las Vegas was one of the, cities or, locations in the country that would probably become a target, right? That ISIS soldiers and, lone wolf attackers and terrorists and criminals were targeting concerts and sporting events and other type of like large scale
Well, Vegas is directly
events.
something
Right,
that goes
exactly.
against their religion anyway, drinking, partying.
It's the perfect location for an Islamic terrorist attack. But regardless of whether this was an Islamic terrorist attack, as ISIS is claiming, or it was a crazy, unstable lone gunman, or there were multiple shooters, that's a threat, right? It has completely shifted the landscape of Vegas and what it means to be able to go out in an open space for a venue. It changes. It's going to spark, and it already has sparked, a national discussion about our security and the security of events and gun laws. And, I think that it's important for people to be aware of the threats in their community instead of pretending like everything is okay.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's why I'm searching for answers. And I mean, clearly I'm not being shown how he got the guns in there. That doesn't make sense to me.
Right,
And
and there
then-
is footage. I mean, sources within MGM have already confirmed, through me at least directly, that, and through my own, independent investigative reporting, that Stephen Paddock used the service or freight elevator inside Mandalay. And there are security cameras, surveillance cameras in all of the elevators, including the service elevator. And there is footage. And I have sources in intelligence who have also told me that they have footage that has captured, parts of the shooting actually happening and, footage from inside. And they have hours of footage of Stephen Paddock inside the Mandalay and other nearby casinos during his time in Vegas, but they're not releasing it at the moment. So there is footage, right? I want everyone to understand that there is footage of Stephen Paddock inside the Mandalay, as well as other casinos and resorts in Las Vegas. But this is an intentional and deliberate decision on behalf of investigators to not release it. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why aren't they releasing this footage? People just want to see it. A lot of people don't even believe that one person by themselves could do this. Why are they not releasing this footage if they're so confident that Stephen Paddock was the killer and that it was only one shooter?
Well, Laura, one of the things you and I were discussing was that they've said that they don't want to traumatize people. And I wonder, Stephanie, would you feel traumatized by seeing footage, or would you prefer to
No,
see?
I mean, I think what's traumatizing is being in that and running for your life.
Right.
But no, I'd feel better seeing that, and then you'd be like, okay, well, now I know that my city is telling me what I need to know anyway for closure. That way, all Las Vegas, I think, would feel better if this came out and you showed the footage, and then people would know, like, now we can prevent guns from going into casinos. Now we can do this, whatever. I mean, it's just the fact that they're not showing enough is the problem, and why people are questioning it. And it's not just me; it's people all over the world that are like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
it's not.
The fact that Jason just brought up, that's not just us speculating, they don't want to traumatize people. One of my sources in intelligence and law enforcement told me that one of the reasons, among many, that they're not releasing the footage at the moment, or just in general, they haven't even, that their decision right now is to not release the footage. And one of the reasons is because they said they don't want it to negatively impact the families. I don't know how that would negatively impact the families, like just seeing this guy or just having evidence that this guy, like, on his own or with the help of others, use the service elevator, however he was able to bring up all of these weapons into the room. I don't know how that would affect people or really traumatize people, but that's what I'm being told. So,
I mean,
I don't understand. I think it's more traumatic and more. It's more traumatizing. If I were to be a victim, it would be more traumatizing for me to not actually see who was responsible for this or how they were able to do it, and know that precautions weren't being taken because the public wasn't able to see.
Yeah, or they're going to get away with it again.
Right,
I mean,
are people going to get away with it?
I truly don't think tourism is going to stop in Las Vegas. There's people out, there are people out right after drinking and partying. Nothing's going to affect the tourism. I think people are affected that we don't have answers we want. And
Right.
I'm sorry if I say that, I don't have the answers I want. My family was listening to the police scanners as I was running for my life, and they heard things that didn't correlate with it either. There's so much that doesn't make sense.
There's a lot of things that if you listen to the police scanner and people have transcribed the scanner and have played the scanners over again, embedded them in videos, and you can see that police originally said there were multiple shooters. They said, we can confirm there's multiple shooters. And so they're saying there's multiple shooters during the police scanner and people are being told there's multiple shooters, but now they're saying there's only one shooter and that they're so confident that there's only one shooter. But there's a lot of contradictory information that was given out originally in the police scanners, and that's all readily available. I can post links to that later as well for those of you who haven't listened or seen the transcripts. But it's alarming. I mean, the fact that it's so different, right? The accounts then, and I understand that in the moment people aren't always sure and things change, right? But you expect those details, especially such drastic details, to be kind of hammered out and clarified within the first 24 or 48 hours or so. I mean, we're talking about 12 days later or 13 days later.
Yeah,
and they still don't know.
That's the thing. That's why, it's important to talk to the eyewitnesses because I was telling my story from day one, and I think that was important, but you should listen to the people who were there,
right.
Listen to what they were saying. I don't want to hear something that came out 12 days later and you're like, this is what happened. I want to know, the shit you guys knew the day of.
Right.
I don't know, that's
Stephanie,
why.
do you have any experience shooting guns? Are you a gun?
I have shotguns before, actually, at the range and in the desert. Yeah.
So when you were there at the concert and you heard the gunfire, did it sound like it was coming from very far away up in a hotel room, inside a room with a tiny little window, or did it sound like it was pretty close to you?
It sounded very close. Let me give you an example. When it first started going off in the crowd, the first place I looked was in the middle of the crowd, and that's where people were freaking out, and it was very loud to what's ground level. And as I was running and as I was listening to people run, everybody was saying, shooters, shooters. Nobody said Mandalay Bay. Nobody thought it was coming from the building at all.
Could you smell gunpowder? Could you smell?
I couldn't. I actually have a friend, though, that was there bartending at that event, and I have her message from her because I asked her about it, and she said she could smell gunpowder.
It doesn't seem like you'd be able to smell gunpowder from guns being fired up in the room.
No. And what makes sense to me, I can't prove a lot of this. I can only prove what I know. What makes sense to me is, though, when I was running further away and I ended up in the airport tarmac, the whole time I was running, though, why would the bullets be getting louder, coming from different directions? I constantly kept moving, and as you've heard from my friend, and I'm sure all my other friends would attest to this, we had to keep moving hiding spots, and I climbed over several different fences because we thought we were being chased, and it sounded like it was getting louder. And then there's other videos where you see people walking down the strip, and they're just casually walking after the shooting went off. It's because they didn't think nothing was behind them anymore. You know what I mean?
Your instincts were telling you to run.
Yeah, and you should listen to that. You should listen to your instincts. My adrenaline was so high, but I know what I heard, and I went into survival mode. Everybody did.
Did you see any shell casings on the ground?
Not from, I took off so quick, but the fact that I did that, and I felt like I was still being chased, it makes sense. Maybe there was a shooter over by where those big tanks are, or I don't know how to say it, Giles and Reno, the streets that are right before the airport, because that's where we ended up running past the car. The cars were parked right outside. I don't know if that was employee parking for the event, or anyway, we ran through that and ended up in the airport. But I didn't see shell castings or anything.
Do you know anyone who died or anybody who was
I know
injured?
someone that was shot twice, yeah. Well, I know who she is.
Alive.
She's alive, yeah, and she's in happy spirits, but...
Is she out of the hospital?
Yeah. That's another thing, though, people want to talk about conspiracies. What's conspiracy is, they're trying to confuse people anyway. The conspiracy is seeing people on the internet saying this is all a hoax and nobody died. That pissed me off because I was there and I know that people got shot and people died, but I think that's the point, is to confuse people if they are doing that and make some people think shit was a hoax. Like just get so much content out there that people are confused.
And look, people died, right? And I know people who said they saw people get shot, and you're telling me you saw people get shot, and there are people who died. But I feel like the reason why people are coming up with some of these theories or, questioning, okay, is this even real, is because they've already seen that law enforcement and people who are in charge of this investigation have deliberately provided the public with misinformation, right? So how can people trust the government and trust law enforcement to really tell them the truth? And, of course, I think it's absurd for people to say that no one died. But to be fair, a lot of people have the right to be suspicious of this investigation and the shooting itself when there's clear-cut evidence and, you watch the pressers, you see what happened, that law enforcement has not been being honest with the public. So
yeah. No, I agree, and it's questionable that the stories keep changing, and I don't know who's in charge of it. It seems as though it's not Metro that's in charge.
So
what did you do with the garment that got blood on it?
I actually have it in my dirty clothes bin. There's still blood on the back of it.
So for all the people out there who think that this was fake, you've got evidence that's got
Yeah.
real blood on it.
I mean, it's not very much blood, but there's still.
You can show it if you'd like. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I have to go walk.
Yeah,
away.
she can go. We'll let her go walk and grab it, but just we'll. Oh, you just grab your mic. Whoops.
I need that.
No worries. So she's gonna go grab her. What is it? A shirt, pants?
Yeah, it's the shirt I was wearing.
Shirt she was wearing, and it's not her blood. It's someone else's blood. So.
Oh.
We have questions coming in.
Someone says they should wash it, Jim camera.
It's this way. Actually, I have to
The
step.
sheriff is not mentally sound to lead this investigation, as someone said.
Ooh.
Right, so this is what I was thinking, Stephanie, get the DNA tested. We don't even need to go that far. We've got hydrogen peroxide, if you put that on there, it will react with the blood in a way.
Well, we already know. Yeah. Look.
Right.
I know it's real blood. Just for the people out there who say it's fake, the RDSs of the world.
Right.
I mean, it's dried up. Oh, it's kind of wet right now.
It's on the other. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
There's 2 spots. Where did it go? Oh, right here and here.
On the couch.
I know it's not very much, but still, I mean, that's definitely blood. But I have a
It's on the
photo of
collar,
it.
too.
I have a photo of it on my phone too that I took 2 different. Do you want me to step around this way again?
Okay, sure.
That's fine.
So, I mean, I have no doubt that people were shot. You were the second person I've met who was a first-hand witness to the event.
Right.
All right.
Again, you hear the term false flag, things like that. It doesn't mean that no one was shot.
So what do you think happened? I mean, despite what law enforcement and despite what people are saying, based on what you...
Blood. That's scary. I had bruises and cuts and all that all over my legs when I got to my mom's house from climbing the fences. The only thing that I know for sure, and that's why I think it's important to listen to eyewitnesses and people who were there, is it didn't sound like one shooter, and it didn't sound like one shooter coming from the 32nd floor. And then also from multiple videos from all my friends in Vegas and locals, there's no muzzle flash coming from the 32nd floor, and anybody with eyes can see that. And if they want to prove different, okay, show me videos from him shooting then. And I'll completely agree, it's just, there's none of that out right now. And I just know that it sounded like multiple shooters. I have friends that were bartending there in the trailers on the other side, same thing, multiple shooters. They don't, I don't know, people are trying to some are trying to move past it, some don't want to talk about it. I just feel like I wanted to talk about it because it's important to me, it doesn't make sense to me, and I don't know. I just don't think it's one shooter, and not enough people are saying that, and obviously you heard from my friend that wasn't even with me. We found each other, I met with him 2 days after that.
And you said you met him the night of, right? You met him that night. So.
Friends now.
Did you hear this video of the taxi driver at the Mandalay Bay?
I did, and that's, so all up until that video, a lot of people were you know, not believing stuff until they heard that video and people broke it down. And I actually have somebody that works for, I have a friend that works for the fire department, so obviously he's a little bit higher up than actual firefighter, but he sent me that video and he was like, you know, I know a lot of the stuff you're posting is what some would think conspiracy stuff, but I think you should see this video. I'm not allowed to share it, but I'll send it to you. And he's like, this makes it hard to prove a lot because you can clearly see overlapping, like two people, you can hear two people firing at once. And that's true, like one's at a far away distance and one's close.
It's almost like on the opposite side of the hotel, one right near the cab and one all the way far away.
Yeah, and even from that video, it just doesn't even sound like anybody would be firing from the 32nd floor. It sounds like it's like somewhere down the strip or somewhere far away, and then one's maybe like halfway up. And yeah, once I saw that, yeah, I mean, what else?
How have you been sleeping since the event? Do you feel like you're...
The first night that it happened, I didn't sleep at all, and I tried to, and I was at my mom's house. Tried to sleep in her bed, could not sleep. All I did was kept, like, you know, Googling YouTube news. It's like upsetting because I was waiting for more answers to come out, and even when, the Fox 5 interview that I did, the guy even interviewed me right when that happened, and that's when they had announced he had just done a press conference, and he said, I think at least like 2 dead, or maybe it was like 20 or something. And I was just like, there's no way that's how many people died. There's way more. And he's like, really? He's like, you think the sheriff is not, you know, like...
Well, it's just funny that they're even asking you these questions because if you listen to the police scanner, they clearly say there's like at least 40 people dead when the media was still reporting that there are maybe like 2 people dead. So it also just brings into question like the absolute state of reporting by reporters in this country. It's just I'm just going to say I believe like they're very lazy. Okay, they want things to be fed to them and given to them. They don't want to like spend hours listening to police scanners on their own. They don't want to do research, and they kind of just like regurgitate things that others around them say instead of really doing their own work. Because if you would have stayed up all night listening to the police scanner, which is what everyday Americans did, right? People who aren't fed a teleprompter script, you would see that the police scanner was reporting that there were probably 20 to 40 casualties on the ground, as you know, mainstream media outlets all across the country were saying, oh, we're getting reports that there are 2 dead and there could be more casualties, or there's a lot of people injured. But it's such a grotesque like screw up, right? It's almost inexcusable at that point in time just to get reporting that wrong.
Well, I think that's why I haven't slept, is because I'm not getting the answers I want, and I've been waiting for something to come out, and I'm not hearing it, and then all my friends are traumatized or healing in their own way, so I don't want to bug them anymore. So I'm staying up every night researching my own shit because I feel like I'm gonna go crazy if I don't get the answers that I want. I mean, I'm not having PSD from people dying. I'm pissed because I don't have the answers that I want, and it doesn't make sense. And again, like, my family doesn't think this makes sense either. Like, they're upset that I had to go through that.
Nobody does.
Me and my stepdad actually took a woman home once he finally picked me up, which he picked me up on Paradise and Tropicana. That's how far I ended up. And he took this woman home, and she had to go home to her friend's house that she was staying with in Henderson, but her friends were still in lockdown at the Tropicana, and they were saying there was a shooter at the Tropicana. So it's like, not like, you know, this was all happening. People that were there know all this stuff already, but like, if you're only watching the news from Pennsylvania or wherever you live, like, you're only going to hear what they hear. But people in Vegas, this is real for them, and they know what they heard when they were running. They know that several casinos had lockdowns. Several places had supposed shootings out front. Like, I've seen videos that people prove that there was a shooting at other casinos. I mean, it's not a conspiracy to me. I was there. I don't know what.
So do you know people, I know you were telling me before that you have a lot of friends who work at casinos. Do you know people who were working or were inside those other casinos that reported shootings at the time of the shooting as well?
I'm sure I do, because I know tons of people in Vegas. I met a girl the other night, though, that randomly, she was like, oh my God, you were there, because she heard me talking about it. And I was like, oh, were you? And she's like, no, I wasn't there, but I was at the Bellagio. And she told me her story, which I thought was really interesting. And I actually have an email from her, but she said that people were screaming active shooters there, and I actually haven't read the full write-up she told me, but it was the other night, so I don't remember fully, but she said that there was active shooters in Bellagio, and they made her like run to the back, you know, and this is a young girl. Like, people don't have like a reason to lie about a tragic event, so it's not like people are making stuff up, you know.
Which is, you know, that's a great point, which is another reason why I think that more focus should be given to these eyewitness accounts of what happened, because it seems like there's thousands of people, right? There were, what, 30,000 people inside that stadium, or 22,000 people, and thousands of more people on the Strip in Las Vegas, one of the world's top tourist destinations, who, you know, said they saw shooters, who said they saw shootings at other casinos, who said they saw the shooting themselves. Why is it that the media here in Las Vegas, and why is it that law enforcement and investigators are not, you know, giving weight to these eyewitness accounts? It's just concerning.
I get what you say about them, like not wanting to affect the tourism, and casinos don't want to, if there was shootings, they don't want to admit that there was a shooter because it'll affect their hotel, but I don't think it will. Tourism didn't stop to Manchester after that. Like, I was in Manchester right after that bombing. I felt completely fine. It's just the fact that, you know, that's what they're thinking, and they don't want to admit it if that's so, but it's not going to stop. I think it's going to upset people more if they don't get the answers that they want, and that would affect people coming back.
No, that's a great point, because look, I mean, when I was watching this happen in live time, on the news, listening to the police scanner, watching videos come in on social media, I thought, wow, this is like a replica of the Bataclan attack in Paris. And just like what you said, tourism is fine. It's not going to stop tourism. Paris, a lot of people still go to Paris. I mean, I personally wouldn't go on vacation to Paris, just given the current state of the place. But there's still tons of tourism, right? Paris is still a top tourist destination in the world, right? People want to go see the Eiffel Tower, regardless of the fact that, you know, it's turning into kind of like its own Middle Eastern country. But it goes without saying that tragedies don't stop people from visiting places, right? A lot of people don't allow those things. They don't allow terrorism and like current events to get in the way of their travel plans or their own desire to travel the world.
Mm-hmm.
Stephanie, the woman that you saw shot in that video that you shared, she lived?
I have no idea, and that's another reason why I want this video to get out, is because I know that person was shot, because it correlated with the boom, but it's important for the video to get out, so maybe the people that are starting to get discharged from the hospital, someone will come forward and say, hey, I was in Suite 6.
Right.
And that's where that woman was, in Suite 6. I was in 5. So I would hope someone finally comes out and says, that's me in the video, that's me and my friends, or someone has any information, because it's important for me and everybody to know that I'm not crazy. And like, again, I told this story before I even had that video, and once I saw that video 2 days later, I started crying, because I was like, oh my God, like, I'm not crazy. Because people were trying to make me feel like I was crazy for hearing single shots first.
Right.
And
so tell people, just because that's really important what you just said, give as much detail to everyone watching right now. People can share this video, whether you're a reporter or you're, you know, somebody who was there as well, or just someone watching around the world. Tell them exactly where you were, exactly what you saw, so that hopefully the woman, if she's still alive, can see this and maybe, you know, get in touch with me or you and confirm what happened.
Sure. I was in Suite 5 of the VIP suites, and those are, I think, like sponsored by Red Bull. But Suite 5, and she was in Suite 6, which is a little bit closer to the stage, on the first platform up. I was ground level. She was on the first platform up, as you can see from that video. And I mean, you can see from the video that someone was hurt, and I don't know if people can like recognize the friends that are in the video too, but you can clearly see people helping her out. I have no idea who that group was. It's just, yeah. Hopefully she's okay, and she reaches out and tells her story when she's healed. From watching other videos, I've noticed though that people were on top of those. There's actually a video of someone that's on top of one of those, and those go pretty high up, and there's shots being shot from like you can see shots hitting that from that angle of that video. So it's proof though that that area did get shot up.
Yeah.
But mine is, this is particularly important to me because this was before the open fire on the crowd. So I don't know if anybody could tell if those are two different guns from that GoPro video. But it doesn't make sense for a couple single shots to go off first, and that's what led me to believe when I was running for my life that there's multiple shooters. And I don't know, I hope more people come forward, and I hope this woman comes forward so she can validate my story as well. Like, I don't need any validation, I think the world does, but all my friends heard that shot as well and saw that the woman fell, so. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your story. And
thank you for listening. I
Yeah, of course.
appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's important. And, you know, this is the difference between, you know, independent investigative journalism as opposed to mainstream or, you know, local news. Other people are told what they can and can't report on, and there's a lot of censorship. I mean, you were telling me that your friend, Anthony, he was telling reporters, local TV reporters, that he felt like he was being chased, and they cut that part out of the interview. I mean, that's a really important fact. If people felt like they were being chased, that means that gunshots were on the ground, right? In order for someone to chase you, I mean, you could be chased from above by some type of flying object, but most of the time when people say they're being chased, it means that someone on the ground is following them. And that's just, how can you cut something out of an interview like that? It's just so reckless and irresponsible.
It is, especially if someone's trying to tell their story and then you just direct it back to, how do you think the victim? I'm like, yeah, we know there's victims. Like, I feel horrible for them, but we want to tell our whole story, and I get it. And thank you to the first responders, and they, you know, they kept reiterating that. And how do you feel about the people that responded? And I'm like,
yeah, I mean, you know, and listen up, media, right? These are people who you interviewed. These are witnesses who you interviewed, right? And you have failed them. You failed out of her own mouth. You failed to tell their story accurately. So I would urge a lot of you, I mean, I don't live in Las Vegas, but I would urge all of the Las Vegas media and the mainstream media to start listening to, you know, these victims and these eyewitnesses, because their stories matter, right? Stephanie's story is important. Anthony's story is important.
I agree. And just because I'm speaking to you doesn't mean there's a million other people, though, that want to, and I guess maybe they don't know how to get in touch with you, or they're just either afraid or they don't. Who knows? But I'm just saying, like, it's not just me, and that's important to me. Like, I'm not targeting anybody specifically. I just want people to know, though.
Right. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are scared. So, but I'm on the ground in Las Vegas. I have to take a trip back to the East Coast, but I will be coming back to continue my investigation. So if you know more people, if you know people and you want to put them in touch with me, you have my number, you have my contact info. And for those of you who want to reach me as well, I keep my DMs open on all my social media accounts. It's at Laura Loomer on Twitter and at Laura Loomer Official on Facebook. And I'm doing my best to reply to as many messages as I can and to meet up with witnesses and sources on the ground so that I can tell your story, right? I want to tell the story that the media and law enforcement agents clearly don't want to tell, these eyewitness accounts. So thank you for telling your story, and Anthony as well. I know you have to leave.
Yeah. No, we appreciate it, and thanks for listening.
Of course. Anything else, Jason, before we...
No, I'm glad you addressed Anthony. I didn't want us to be accused of a conspiracy theory of throwing him out the window.
Anthony had to go, but he did share his account of the events before he had to leave. So.
Thanks for speaking with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening, actually responding to me.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, you called me, I think, we spoke yesterday, right? So, I mean, that's how easy it is, you guys, right? She reached out to me yesterday, and we're having an interview, a live stream conversation about this now, and thousands of people are going to see this. And, you know, whether I'm giving the media full, full permission to use my video, rip my video, right? You don't even need to contact me and ask me for permission. Share this video everywhere and report it in your news reports about the shooting. Share it. You don't need to give me credit. Just listen to the victims, listen to witnesses there, because it's really important that this other side of the story gets out there. So, thank you.